Okay, so today I'm going to answer some imponderables. I'm sure you've all seen them. Imponderables are questions that the person that is asking them thinks there's no answer to, but most of them do have an answer. For example, one of them would be, if it's a World Series, why are only American teams playing in it? Well, back in 1903, when the World Series started, there was only 2 leagues. Why does pizza come in a square box, a round pizza come in a square box? Because the square box is easier to fold. Can you cry underwater? Yes, you can. The problem is you can't breathe underwater. So you can breathe when you're crying, you can't breathe when you're underwater. If the professor could make a coconut out of radios, a radio out of coconuts, yeah, that's what he did. He made a radio out of coconuts. How come he couldn't fix a hole in a boat? You ever try to fix a hole in a boat with a coconut? Not easy to do. If man evolved from monkeys, how come there's still monkeys around? It's a good question, but it's easy to answer because the monkeys that were in the trees didn't need to evolve. They were safe there, they had plenty of food, and they had no need to evolve. The ones that went down from the trees needed to evolve into their environment, and therefore they evolved to whatever environment they went to. If people from Poland are called Poles, and how come people from Holland aren't called Holes? That's fucking retarded. Because if it was called Holland, they would be called Holes, but it's not called Holland. If you choke a Smurf, what color will he turn? For that, you would have to ask the creator, because the creator made him blue, therefore the creator would know what color he would turn if he was choked. Can vegetarians eat animal crackers? Only if they aren't cooked in fat. What kind of disease did cured ham have? If you look in a dictionary, there's more than one definition for cured, so that's just a stupid one. If a man with multiple personalities threatens suicide, does that become a hostage situation? I don't think there's any law in killing a person's own personality, so I don't think anybody cares. Why do you need a driver's license to buy liquor? You don't need a driver's license. You do need ID, and the most common form of ID is a driver's license. So if you don't have a driver's license, but you say I have a Visa, or I have, not MasterCard, what's the other one? A passport, then you could probably get away with using one of them. If a 7-Eleven is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, why does it have locks on the door? Well, what if you're the night manager and you're the only one there and you have to go to the bathroom? You just can't have people rummaging through the store, so you have to lock it while you go to the bathroom, and then you come back and you can open it up. Why is it that Braille's on the driver's I'll edit that part out. Why is it that Braille's on the ATMs when you go to drive-through parts of banks? Because some archaic rule that you can't discriminate against blind people, but also it just makes sense, because why would you have a separate mold at the factory where you're making the ATMs for Braille and then another one without Braille? Just make them all with Braille and you only need one mold. Why do we drive on parkways and park on driveways? This one I don't really know, but I do know that in New Jersey, if you drive down the parkway and you stop at one of the rest stops, there's little parks at each rest stop. A little picnic area, you could have a picnic. Some of them have little barbecues. That would be considered a park. And you're going down the parkway from park to park. And as for the driveway, I believe a parking spot was already taken, so they had to call it something else. And since it was bigger than a parking spot, you could drive on it, so that's probably why they call it a driveway. And why do you turn down the radio when you're driving and looking at directions? Well, because it's kind of hard to concentrate when you got Jonathan Davis yelling in your ear about do you all want a single or something like that. So you turn it down until you concentrate on where you're going, and then as soon as you know what you're looking for, then you can turn it back up. Why are there interstate highways in Hawaii? Well, they use the same funds as the other states, so the highways in Hawaii are still under the same fund, so they get the same name, even if they aren't going to a different state. The little black box on planes, why aren't planes made of that? Well, it's probably a heavier metal, which would make it harder to fly, but besides that, they do get destroyed. They're inside the plane, so they're protected by the outside of the plane, so that's why they usually survive the crash. How do they get deer to cross at that yellow sign? Usually that sign's put before where deer usually cross, so you have a warning that that is where they're going to cross. What's another word for thesaurus? Thesaurus isn't in the thesaurus, so there probably isn't another word. What do they use to ship styrofoam popcorn in? Actually, we get that shipped to my factory, and it comes in a 24 by whatever cubic foot bag, about 10 pounds, just a bunch of little popcorns. So it's a big cellophane bag. How did a fool and his money get together in the first place? Well, he married Britney Spears. Or he may have boxed for a living until he got sent up on rape charges. If a funeral procession is at night, do all the cars ride with their headlights off? When's the last time you saw a funeral procession at night? They don't have them at night because you have to bury the person and there's no lights at the cemetery. When you open up a bag of cotton, is the top one meant to be thrown out? If you purchase something, you can do whatever you want with it. Whether it's in an aspirin bottle or if it's in a bag of cotton, you can do whatever you want with it. Why is it that when someone tells you that there's a billion stars out there, you believe them, and when they tell you that the paint is wet, you have to go and touch it? Well, I don't believe people that easily. I don't think there's a billion stars out there. It's probably a little bit more than that. And I touch the wet paint so that I don't sit on it or bump against it, so I know it's dry.